Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play Path of the Wind from the anime film My Neighbor Totoro. Now, I had the pleasure of working on this arrangement just a little bit with Matt, and I've got to say that it is an absolutely gorgeous composition, and it is a wonderful piece to play on the ukulele. It translated so well. Now, I would say that this piece is probably going to be best suited for the seasoned beginner player. So if you're kind of at that transition level going from beginner to intermediate level, this is going to be a really good challenge in terms of a fingerstyle piece. Now let's take a step back though. Let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play the entire tune, but if you do want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com, do a search for the song's name. Now also on that page will be the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now this is a great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this, and then I'll catch you at the end of the lesson.
Hello! In today's tutorial, we're going to be learning a high G ukulele arrangement of Path of the Wind from My Neighbor Totoro. This is a beautiful melody that transcribes really well to the ukulele, so let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to bring the camera down. We're going to start here with our pickup bar. The pickup bar is going to be 2 on the C string played with the middle finger and 1 on the E played with the index. As far as my playing hand goes, I like to just use my thumb for a majority of this song to just pluck the individual notes. And that pickup bar is just those 2 as 8th notes, and it sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and then we go on to measure 1, which really starts this melody A section. And we're going to be playing a G5 chord. Now, the trick is you want to actually continue holding both of these fingers from the pickup bar and just add the ring finger here to the 3rd fret of the E string. We're going to strum through with our thumb on our G, C, and E strings, stopping that thumb on the A string. You'll actually notice I make contact with the A string and I don't follow through to get just those 3. Then I'm going to play the E string again, then the A, then I'm going to play the E string taking this 3rd fret off, so it's actually 1 on the E. Then I'm going to play 2 on the C and 1 on the E to finish that measure. So measure 1 sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into the second measure now, we're going to play the C5 chord. To do this, take that ring finger, place it back on the 3rd fret of the E string, and then take the other 2 fingers off, so it's just that 3rd fret on the E. Strum through our G, C, and E, stopping on the A again. Then we're going to play the open G, then 3 on the A, taking our pinky finger and squeezing it in underneath to the 3rd fret. Then take that pinky off for open on the A, then open on the A again. And then this is really important, we're going to play the 3 on the A again, but we don't want to use our pinky this time. We want to move to the index finger 3rd fret on the A. The reason is what it sets up later, so just trust me as we're working on this measure. So measure 2 sounds like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And these measures together, measures 1 and 2, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now the reason we use this index finger right here is because of what comes next. As we go on to measure 3, we're going to play a G minor chord, but it's one you might not have played before. It's not the one down here, it's rather up. Slide that index finger up to the 5th fret on the A string, add the middle finger here on the 6th fret of the E, and finally our ring finger to the 7th fret of the C string. Strum through all 4 strings together with the thumb. Play the 5 on the A 2 more times. Then 8 on the A with the pinky finger being added to everything that's already playing. Then, this is tricky, slide the pinky down to the 7th fret on the A string. It really helps to sort of tilt your fingernails towards your shoulder of your playing arm so that you're more straight up and down as you start with the chord. As you play 8, more straight up and down, but for the 7, we kind of turn to fit it in there. And then we're going to play the 5 on the A, take the pinky off, which should turn the hand more straight up and down again. Then 8 on the E string, pinky being added. 6 on the E, which is just pinky being removed. It's already there with the middle finger. So measure 3 in time sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into the fourth measure now, we're going to play a little A minor chord, just all open, play our C, E, and A strings together with the thumb. Then we're going to play open on the G, 2 on the C with the middle finger, and then open on the A. And then we're going to play 2 on the C, which is already there, followed by 1 on the E with the index finger, which is the same thing as the pickup bar we played at the very start of the song. So measure 4 in time sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And measures 3 and 4 together should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now from here we go on to measure 5, but here's something cool. Measure 5 is exactly the same as measure 1. No difference whatsoever. So in time, measure 5, same as 1, should sound like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what's really nice is measure 6 is actually exactly the same as measure 2, which in time should sound like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the 2 together of measures 5 and 6 are identical to 1 and 2 and should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. As we go on to measure 7, it starts off the same as measure 3 did, with us sliding the index up to the 5th fret on the A, with the 6 on the E and the 7 on the C, that G minor chord, exactly the same chord. We're going to strum through, play the 5 on the A 2 more times, just like we did before, 8 on the A, just like we did, move that down to 7, turning the hand just like we did before, 5 on the A, taking the pinky off, and then it changes a little bit. What we do for the last 2 notes of this bar is we're going to play open on the A, so just take that index finger off, and then we're going to move our middle finger down to the 2nd fret of the C string and play that. So measure 7 sounds something like this in time. Very similar to 5, but just the last 2 notes different. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into measure 8 now, we're going to just take that middle finger, leave it where it is, and then add the index finger to the 1st fret of the E string, strum through our G, C, and E together to get this nice D minor add 11. And then we're going to play 2 and 1 on the E. 2 on the C, 1 on the E, we're already holding for this little pickup to go back in because it actually repeats here. More on that in just a moment. Measure 8 on its own sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And measures 7 and 8 as a pair should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. At this point, it repeats and it goes back to measure 1 and plays through 1 all the way through measure 7. And then instead of going on to 8 like we just played, which is the first ending, it goes on to the second ending on measure 9, which is starting with the same D minor add 11 chord that we just played a moment ago, strumming our G, C, and E strings. And then it plays a new part here where we're going to go all the way up to 8 on the A string. I like to use my middle finger here. You could also use your ring finger. There's a couple different ways to do it. The gist, though, is that we want to make sure our index is getting ready to go at 6. So if you want to slide fingers down or one finger at a time, doesn't really matter. Let's do it with the ring finger for right now, though. 8 with the ring, 7 with the middle on the A string. And then that will actually start our melody B section. But let's go ahead and hear measure 9 in time. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so that we can hear it, I'm going to play all of melody A. I'm going to start with the pickup bar. I'm going to go all the way through measure 8, do the repeat back to 1, go all the way through measure 7, and then the second ending on measure 9. Should sound something like this at a nice slow speed. 2 and 3 and. then from here, we go on to melody B. We're going to start with this wonderful C minor chord up the neck, 7th fret on the C string with our middle finger, ring finger on the 8th fret here of the E string, and our index finger on the 6th fret of the A. And you should notice that as we came off, that index is all set up to go on that 6 on the A, making it easier. We're going to strum through our C, E, and A together. Then we're going to add our pinky to 8 on the A. Then play the 6 by taking the pinky off. Slide the index down to 5, and then back up to 6. So a lot of little tight roping here with the fingers. If it's really hard for you, it's okay to take the fingers off and move them, but then you won't get that sustain and resonance of the chord. So really prefer to play it while holding the shape best you can. And then the last 2 notes of that will be the 7 on the C and the 8 on the E. So in time, measure 10 is going to sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going on to measure 11 now, we're going to play open on the C string. Then we're going to play 6 on the A string. Very important to use your middle finger right here on the 6 of the A string. Even though I know we just were there with the index, now we want to switch it to the middle, and you'll see why in a moment. We're going to play that 6, then 8 with the pinky, and then 6 with the middle, and then 5 with the index, and then 3 with the index, sliding it down. So measure 11 looks something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what you can hear for measures 9 and 10 together is they should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And as you go on now to measure 12, you're going to notice we're going to be doing something called parallel octaves. To do these parallel octaves, we're going to fret the 2nd fret with our index finger on the C string, and our pinky finger is going to go here to the 5th fret of the A string. Now this is a little bit different. I'm not going to be using just my thumb because I have to pluck these 2 strings together. So what I'm instead going to do is I'm going to pluck my C and A with my thumb and my middle fingers. I'm going to play that, and then I'm going to move it up 1 fret to 3 and 6. And move it up 2 frets to 5 and 8. And that is going to be measure 12. In time, measure 12 sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. From here, we go on to measure 13. Measure 13 is going to go back to something very familiar. We're going to go to the 2 on the C string with our middle finger and the 1 on the E string with our index finger there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pluck those 2, the C and E together, and then we're going to play 2 on the C, 1 on the E, open on the A, and then we're going to play 8 on the A string, and then 7 on the A string, which we're going to use the same ring and middle fingers that we did earlier when we played that same little progression. So measure 13 in time sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the pair of measures now, 12 and 13, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then we go on to measure 14 now, which 14 should look familiar because it is exactly the same as measure 10. And in time sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. As we go on to 15 now, we're going to start off the same as we did with 11, open on the C. Then we're going to play the same 6 and 8, but this time we're going to be using our index and ring finger staying in this position because we're going up from here. So this is a little confusing. The first time we play it on measure 11, we want to use our middle finger and pinky here. The second time we play it on measure 15, we're going to be playing it with our index and index and ring fingers, the same way we did this chord here. So we play the open C, and then 6 on the A, 8 on the A with the ring, and then 6 on the A again with the index, and then 8 on the A, again you can use your ring finger, and then pinky all the way up to 10. So measure 15 in time is going to sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the pair there measures 14 and 15 together, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And from here we go on to measure 16. We're going to go down to this D minor chord again, where we're playing the 2 on the C string and the 1 on the E with our middle and index fingers. Play our C, E, and A strings together. But then we're going to kick our ring finger out here to the 3rd fret of the A string. And then we're going to play our pinky finger to the 3rd fret of the A string. I think I said 3rd fret of the A string on this first one. This is the 3rd fret on the G string, following it with the 3rd fret on the A string. A lot of 3s on the outside strings going there. So again, that's the 2, 1, and 0 of the C, E, and A. 3 on the G string, and then 3 on the A, adding the ring finger, then the pinky. Then we play 1 on the E. So we just kind of hold this shape, and then we're going to play 2 on the C, and then we're going to play open on the C. So a little bit tricky of a measure. Should sound something like this, measure 16 in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into the 17th measure, we're going to play 2 on the C, open on the E, open on the G, and then 2 on the C and 1 on the E. Notice I'm using my middle and index fingers there on the C and E strings, just like I do for most of the song. So measure 17 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And measures 16 and 17 when played together should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And from here, we actually go back onto melody A. So that we can hear it though, here's all of melody B, starting at measure 10, going 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way through. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. From this point, we go back to melody A. And what's wonderful about this is it's all repeated. This melody A is exactly the same as we played it at the beginning of the song. So as we go on now to measure 18, that's the same as measure 1. We go on to measure 19, that's the same as measure 2. We go on to measure 20, that's the same as measure 3. 21, the same as 4. 22, the same as 5. 23, the same as 6. 24, the same as 7. And then 25 is the same as 8 without the pickup at the end. We actually just end with that chord that we play at the end of measure 8. That might sound really confusing, but the gist of it is the first 8 bars of the song are exactly the same as the last 8 bars of the song, except for the very, very last couple notes played at the end of measure 8 not being there. So what this sounds like is something like this. I'm going to play all of melody A, and then we'll talk about that last measure a little bit so that you can get the context. But here's what melody C, which is the same thing as melody A, sounds like. It should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And you can hear at the very end there, measure 25, when we look at just measure 25, it's going to be just that D minor add 11, the 0, 2, 1. We're going to play it and we're going to let it ring for the full bar. When in earlier parts of the song, we would play that and then we play the 2 and 1 to pick back up, going back through it. This time it just ends it, and that's all there is to it. Just so that we can hear it though, let's go ahead and hear measures 24 and 25, just so that you can reiterate that ending sequence. It should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And there you have it. I'm going to bring the camera back up to me. That is Path of the Wind. I love this melody, translated really well to a high G ukulele, and it's one that really just can be taken at different speeds. It's okay to play with what's called rubato, play with feeling as you're doing it. Don't worry about doing it with a metronome and a click. Play it as as emotionally as you can and see what you think. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'll see you all for the next lesson here on Rock Class 101. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was a ton of fun. It's a gorgeous composition, and it's a really good piece for that seasoned beginner, budding intermediate player level. So guys, I do want to give you a friendly reminder before we wrap up that if you did want to get the tabs to print off and keep for your records, that was available at this link right here. Or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, do a search for the song's name. Now also on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, watch that tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed learning this tune, and we will catch you in the next lesson. Take care.